Hey, everybody, Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols are back with another tactical fitness report. And today we're going to talk about a few things that have kind of caused a few rants between the two of us um,
Mostly me.
about some topics. But no, I've been going at it too because I get frustrated as well. Um, and it really comes to, I think it's just a new generation of people coming into this journey of like setting a goal for themselves of I want to be blank special operator, right? And they're young, right? And they're immature and they tend to know everything, but they ask the stupidest questions, right? And I actually wrote an article last week about I have 10 questions that you do not need to ask anymore. In fact, if I ever get this question, I just send this article to them. I say, read this. Not only do I answer the questions in there, the stupid ones, but I say these are really ridiculous questions because they really don't matter, right? And it's bringing in the wrong mindset going into this journey.
Yep.
For instance, the number one question that probably gets me the most is, someone who wants to be, let's say, a Green Beret, right? Army Special Forces. Like, hey, what's what's the minimum standards to become a Green Beret, right? Not the right mindset you want going into this journey.
Right.
And I know you got frustrated last week with questions from folks, and I instead of making this necessarily a rant back and forth about who has the stupidest questions getting
You
asked to
bet.
each other, we
Yeah.
can we can maybe just talk about some of the reasons when we start taking you seriously is
Yeah. There you go.
when you start taking your training seriously. And
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah. And
Maybe just
from a
go down. What
coach's
does that mean
standpoint,
to
we can
be?
see.
Yeah, what does that mean to be taking your training seriously?
Yeah. I agree, and I think that's it doesn't come from a selfish place. It comes from experience as a coach. Comes from experience as a SEAL, just as Stu. And this is where my mind goes. And I imagine Stu, yours is similar. When I hear these questions, what I see is not that dissimilar than 22 or 20-year-old Jeff. When 20-year-old Jeff decided to join the Navy, like it was scary, like legitimate. Like it's not, getting the opportunity to do this, special forces, whatever branch of service, you don't get to dip your toe in it like you can sport. Like, hey, I'm going to see if I like to play baseball. So you played as a kid, try it, whatever. You get to try
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
it's we understand. That's the thing is you must also know whether you make it through training or you don't. Everyone has to have that point of faith that they got to leap from. And an interesting thing, the point of faith you guys had to leap from really stems from a multitude of very honest questions you're really saying about yourself. When you say, hey, what's the minimum standard? What I hear is this person's so insecure with his current state of being that he's going to find out what the minimum is to see he can bounce it off his sort of moral compass and ethics and things and be like, well, if my minimum isn't going to be, it's kind of like then what you're doing is you're clearly questioning your aptitude or willingness. Because if someone goes, hey, what does it take? How long? And just point me in the right direction. They go off. 6 months later, they show up and go, yeah, here's my results. This is what I did. I did you say. And then they start formulating questions that are really formulated in shortcomings of I don't understand how to effort better. It's not like how do I effort the minimum so I can figure this thing out so I don't fully commit and don't really because if I don't fully commit, then I won't fully feel bad if I change my mind.
yeah. I
That's
mean, and
all
then
it is.
then the questions start changing. Instead of hey, what's the minimum standards? It goes from how can I increase my energy levels to perform better, right?
Yes.
And how can I hit these, you know, above average standards or competitive standards, or what are the standards of people who make it through the training,
Yes. Yeah. And
right? What are
instead
those
of
standards? Yeah.
instead of hey, once you get through training, what's the lifestyle like? Because then they're trying to balance off like, hey, this is what I like to do fun. I like to go to bars, go to movies, go to concerts, whatever it may be. And then they hear the lifestyle stuff. And then they go like, well, let me balance off like how much more fun would it be if I was X? They're going to try to have this thought in their head. They're like, no, 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 no. Like, you're trying to formulate these emotions based on your current state of like. There's no way that you can project your life through selection and training, have all those experiences, meet all those people, take the job, and then go, hey, I'm the exact same person coming out of this. That level of ignorance is real common. We get like, you get a college student that comes through that had a great college party life, and that party life just perpetuates. You're like, okay, you're just trying to safeguard your own failure. That's it. You're allowing for yourself your own little self-destruction in the background, so that if things don't go the way you want, you can be like, well, I just never really took it seriously. Had I taken it seriously, I'd have been fine. And that's where the questions end up leading then, is like, it goes from very quick training questions to, hey, how does lifestyle suit you once training's done? I'm like, that's for you to find out when you go through training, because that formulates you, not your experiences in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah. I will say this, I was 19 years old, just finishing freshman year in college. I started this journey and I show up to my first SEAL PT. We were lucky at the academy. We had active duty SEALs that would run these morning PTs at 5 a.m. And you can show up as volunteer. And I remember showing up for my first one. I did look at the minimum standards on the like Navy SEAL brochures that they had out there. Back then, it was all you had. You didn't have the internet. You had these things,
Yep.
right? Remember these that
Oh yeah.
told you everything that you needed to know?
Yep.
Keep
Nice,
those.
nice picture folders. Yeah, with one insert. Yep.
Yeah, that was it. That was all you needed to know. It had some scores in there, and I was like, "Damn, I can't even hit these scores yet. I think I'm close, but you know." And then I go to this PT and just get my ass handed to me. I'm last on the run. I'm failing on the pull-ups. My poor partner had to like push me up to get the reps. But you know what I did is I didn't ask any more questions. I just showed up again. And I showed up again and I showed up again. And it took a long time. It took a long time to transition. And it's not like I wasn't an athlete before. I played 3 sports in high school and been active ever since I was 8 years old, playing some kind of activity. And it just took a long time to transition into it. And I just kept showing up. Eventually, I wasn't the worst one anymore. And eventually, I could lead a group of people in PT that were worse than I was.
Yeah.
Right. And it just kind of evolved into that type of thing. And if you're really not honest with yourself about, these scores that you look at the minimum or you look as competitive and kind of understand there's a process to reach those. And if you're not honest with that potential timeline of months, could even be a year or more, then you're really not taking this journey seriously enough as it needs to be taken.
Yeah, you said it's brilliant. You keep saying long, right? Hey, it took a long time. Like, I'm not saying Stu. Like the reality is it took the perfect amount of time for you, and it does that for. I know it's semantics, but
Yeah.
that's like. But the truth be told, in hindsight, you look back and go, how did you know that you wanted to go do it? Because as you improved, you look back at the process that you were involved in and go, oh my God, this is working. This is for me. And it goes right to your question. My second point is, you got to put the initial work in for the PST. Like, so you segue this perfect. It's like the process in which you accomplish that PST improvement or whatever that metrics you're measuring with a system that's known to work. The system you jumped into, the system you create, the system that we create here, it works. And when someone like I get it, like go, hey, I'm new to this. Here's my questions. Like, well, if you're new to it, put the work in, because if the history tells me that 100% of the people that need to find my course of motivation so they'll get the minimums, no, like you need to find your course of motivation to get to the minimums, because that shows us like, oh, here is our process. We're a wide open book. It's not mine to keep, but I know you'll fit into it because you have shown me consistency. And consistency is the greatest percentage of success, is being consistently showing up, just like you said. I'm stealing your words, but
No, that's all
there's
right.
nothing more unsexy than someone showing up and going, "Hey, Stu, Jeff, I've worked really hard for the last 6 to 8 months. Here's my PST scores, and they're pretty decent." And then they go, "But my run is stuck at 10:05, and this is happening." Awesome, man! Like, let's
That's
help
a
you
lot to work
dissect your
with.
process. You
That
bet.
that turns on my coaching brain,
Yes,
right? There has
exactly.
to be little things that the student turns on the coaching brain, whether that is asking about a technique to do this or a process to get to a 9 mile and a 9 minute mile and a half. How does that look? Those turn on the coaching brain. The things that don't turn on the coaching brain and turn on the you kind of like the whatever my ranting brain, like you really need to double check yourself to see if this is something you want to do.
Yeah,
Because if I get a comment of like, hey, how do you motivate yourself to go work out every morning, I'm just like, that's a bad question. It really is, because you know it's not my job to motivate you to serve your country. And and one of my favorite things to tell people, and this is usually a little reverse psychology that I would still call coaching, but it looks like this. And it's to a point of like, look, if one day your fitness level could be the difference between you living or dying, your buddy living or dying, or somebody, because of your job you're trying to rescue, from living or dying. And it could be your fitness level that really determines that success or not. And if that doesn't motivate you to want to go train, then by all means, you may be going into the wrong journey for a job and profession in your future, right?
yeah.
You might want to find something else to do.
Or just and understand that, to piggyback, like, understand this, that like it's not abnormal to question yourself when you are involved in such a sincere task. So don't think for a minute that Stu and I didn't go, "Whew, okay, man, you asked for this. Now it's time to jump in the fire," right? Like, there is a multitude of times throughout my career I'm like, "Well, you said you wanted to be this, so it's time to go do it," right? You said you wanted to be this operator, so here's your hey ho. Here's your first ever 29,000 foot hey ho. Like, oh, this is unique. Like, okay. So, oh, hey, here's your first gunfight, and your second, and your third, and your 50th, and your 150th. It's like, it never gets to the point where you're like, "Hey guys, let's get our guns and go hunt." Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's a real sense of, "Hey man, is my process sharp? Did I leave something out?" Because, just to your point, it's a real thing. Like, we can talk about cliches about, but the truth of the matter is I firsthand experienced someone saving my life because they were able to physically handle the situation, and they had a better angle than I did. And a couple of times I've done the same for somebody.
Yep.
And it's like, I've saved my life a few times based on my strength. And it wasn't an abnormal thing, because wherever I was at in the train or the stack or the ladder, everyone before me and after me also had to do it. It wasn't like I was surrounded by workhorses that could accomplish these amazing feats. And and so many guys get to experience that in the teams, and that's why there's so much love and adulation for the community, because there really are extraordinary people doing extraordinary things that we all want to be a part of. And that's why it's hard. We get, man, it's a hard life choice. But what we're trying to do is say it's worth it. And we hope to show you that there are better ways. Not that things are bad, but we can keep refining these processes for the operator, because I don't think anyone else deserves it more.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I have had some really good. I love your sound of freedom in the background there.
Yes, touch and goes today on Thursday.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. Um, now I have had young young people come to me, and I automatically give them the young person discount, right? And that being, you really don't understand what you just asked, right? And so you kind of have to give them a little education. Sometimes that education can be in the form of actually seeing if how they do in the workout itself, right? And then all of a sudden, what came in as a cocky 18-year-old is now no longer cocky, right? In fact, it's just the opposite. He probably went from one extreme to the other, and now coaching has to go into saying, "Hey, look, you know, you're just not prepared." Right? This takes a longer time than you being a football player in high school, right? That is not preparation enough for some of these professions. And so as a coach, I typically give the young person that benefit of the doubt. Wow, that is some loud stuff. That give that young person the benefit of the doubt and try to use my coaching. Now, it's like a tennis match. I just hit that tennis ball into his court. What is that person going to do with it? Right?
Right. Exactly.
That is when I see if you're taking your training seriously or not. Do you
Yeah.
show back do you show back up the next day? Do you work a little harder? Do you try to get 1% better than you did the day before?
Yep.
All those little things like that are huge cues to the coach that you are taking your training seriously.
Yeah. Like, what response did you have that was action, not words, not excuses? That what Stu did, and so many of us is like you the process or whatever you want to talk, whatever going back, like keep going back to the PT at the academy. It's like that's how you convince yourself, right? And that's it. You don't have to force it, because what you find in this, I think, is that you end up not you stop being mystified by this job that you really never experienced. You really start falling in love with like this process, and that's what gives you the humility and the respect to go do it, to continue it. It's like all of a sudden that brain switches to like, oh, okay, we're gonna suffer together, and I can appreciate that because everyone is here for this calling they can't quite explain. Now,
Right.
while you're here, it's like I just feel I need to be here. This thing that's bigger than me, do something for country, God, whatever it may be. It's this real, authentic compulsion that manifests. Like, that's how I knew it was all the work and practice. I was like, man, I like this. This is part of what I know that I can get out of it.
Right.
The process is such a great learning path too.
You
So
know what I liked about it, and it not only occurred in the physical preparation process, but as well as learning tactical skills in your journey as well. There was always a sense of confidence going into this, and sometimes overconfidence going into this, and you got kicked down,
yeah,
and you failed. You failed at something, and you had to struggle back up to get back to that level of confidence again. And that's like that 18-year-old kid who I hit that tennis ball into his court. He's down really low, but 6 months later, he's the most improved guy in the group, right? That is what I'm talking about as far as prep. But
yeah,
then when you get into your tactical training, and there's so much of a journey in that, it's another level, and you're force fed it through a fire hose, right? And your ability to take that on in the first round is likely going to kick you down a notch, bring you back down to that humility that you need, and then you start building your confidence up again. I would say, I only did 8 years in, Jeff, and my years were different than yours, throughout the 90s, and it never failed to build yourself up, get kicked down, build yourself up, get kicked down throughout. And whether you're talking about first phase, second phase, third phase of buds, SQT, you know, training it throughout deployments, all that stuff, everything was such a learning curve that if you're not used to that journey or get motivated and fired up by that journey of coming into a new program excited to learn it, getting kicked down, and then building yourself back up, this is not for you.
Right. Yeah. And that's the point of this is that, I think that my experience says this is like, was Buds difficult? It was difficult, right? But I can think of more than 10 or 15 times that I was colder in a real
Oh
world
yeah.
mission. Legitimately, I can list at least 4 times that like there was a real risk of dying had we stopped. Physical death if you stop, you'll either freeze to death, or other
Yeah.
reasons you die. Um, so I look at it and go, Buds is it's a great entry point. It is. It's necessary. But that's the other side. Like, I guess it's hard for me to like understand how people can come with such naivety and some don't. When we know that the people that are looked up to, whether it's you, it's someone with a book and an experience. It's like, those are real combat situations, real life. And there's no way to know what the next 3 to 5 years is going to be for the teams in terms of combat, non-conflict, this, that, and the other. I mean, the tier one sides are going to be involved in some things and whatnot, always are. But point is I think what we also have just got to authentically see is that it's okay to take some time to work through this, like, because that's kind of the difference in sport almost, is that what we see is like, if you've been playing high school football and you made it to college football, the learning curve was different, but it wasn't unfamiliar, right? These really good athletes that have this real familiar athletic talent, when they show up at the teams, Buds and all those sort of things, that's all new stuff. It really is. And it's hard for people and athletes to realize that that's part of the process, to go like, I shouldn't be familiar with an obstacle course, even though I was an athlete in all these spaces. I
Yeah.
shouldn't be. I shouldn't go into a PT session with a bunch of SEAL candidates or Green Berets or whatever it is and think that I'm just going to navigate through this without ever experiencing it. And that's what we got to tell people, is that the point of all this is your intellect, your intuition, like, is different than your action, right? Like, we can read all the books and listen to all the podcasts just like you all, right? Anybody can do that. But do you take that information of your intellect and do you put it into action to find out? Because only you can really find out if this place is for you. And we're just trying to share with you, like, we both think that more people should follow the path. And it's not, we're not trying to cut people's feet out from under that didn't do the work. We know that if we get these people in love with the process even a little bit, it'll take care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something you just gave me a thinking part of my brain. When you brought up the athlete, preparing for football, or an athlete, going into college. The unique thing about being an athlete compared to the tactical journey is the athlete really does have a timeline, right? When football season starts, that you have to be bringing your A game, September 1st every year, right? Whereas if you have that mindset that you've been doing for the last 6 to 8 years with your athletics, a lot of people go into this journey thinking the exact same thing. Like, oh, I have like 6 to 8 weeks. I can prepare to get to and through Buds, right? Because my ship date is September, right? Versus actually considering, having a performance line instead of a starting line,
Yeah.
or a timeline, right? Have a performance starting line so you can now say, these are my goals I need to get. These are the scores that most operators, guys that graduated these training programs are getting. These are the top 20% of the class type scores, because when you have an 80% attrition rate, you want to be in that top 20% in just about everything. So instead of having that timeline where a lot of people ask, what's my timeline for this? Let's set up your performance in a way that will tell you when you're ready to go.
Right, because it's going to be an indicator of your consistency.
Yeah.
That's what we're really that's what, as a coach or whatever, we're trying to help you formulate a process that gives you the consistency to not only prepare, assess your rate of repair of preparedness. Like, hey, how am I preparing quick enough? Like, did I create the right timeline? Like, all
Yeah.
these things are about, because again, if we're going to say, hey, here's the top 20% and here's their metrics and here's what they did, well, the answer to all of it is the process in which they put themselves into is what got them there outside of their own will. So if we can extrapolate will, and we can just say, here's the programming for the top 20%, it's robust.
Oh,
It's not a
yes.
6-week preparation. It really is an understanding that, like, well, I don't know the process yet, but I know it enough that I need to give it the respect that all these guys that say, hey, you should respect the process and do this, be consistent, give you a right timeline, you surround yourself with good people. That's what these questions show that you're not doing.
Yeah.
And in 2023, when we have global involvement all over, and you have at the minimum Stu and I to go, hey, I think despite what our personalities might be, just generally speaking, I think one thing consistently between us exists. We consistently give out processes to people that they merge with their process and accomplish exactly what they set out to do with as much consistency as regularity with any two people on the planet. Well, my wife as well is involved. So I look at it and go, well, what does that mean? What does that sort of consistency mean between you and I? That you and I generally have people's best interests in mind if you're willing to take on a process.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way. This is how I kind of compare some of the younger, I want to be a Navy SEAL group, to what I did when I got out of the military. When you get out of the military, you're kind of all over the place. You almost like it just finished high school and you don't know where you want to go. Do I want to go to
Right.
college? Do I want to go to work? What do I want to do? You're kind of back. You kind of revert back to that moment. And, so I considered a whole bunch of things. I considered the FBI. I considered going to med school. I considered uh, going to business school. Right. So I considered all these different things. And, I remember really considering medical school. Right. And then I did some research. I researched, one, how long it's going to take to get
Right.
through med school, how many
Timeline.
classes I need to take, how many classes I need to take just to be qualified to go to med school.
Yeah, then the
Right.
MCAT, right? And then all
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
then MCATs and then money. Right. And so it all went into that. But there's a good couple of months there that I was really gearing into that. And I was
Yeah.
taking a college class or two on like biology and anatomy and some physiology, just to like start building up towards that, because I knew there was some preparation I needed to do before I could even apply to med school. Right. And I quickly learned that this is way more than I am willing to commit to.
And that's
Right.
okay.
And that's okay. Exactly. So, I see a lot of this very similar groups, that are like, hey, I want to be a Navy SEAL, when they walk into the recruiter's office and the recruiter says, hey, yeah, how do you think you do on the PST? And they're like, what's the PST? Right. I mean, that isn't like how I went into, like, say, I'm going to be a doctor. Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no, that's like that all of that is why the process is so important. Consistent
yes,
process.
yes, exactly.
Because you really do, like, it's when something, whether it's med school or law school, because I almost went to law school. Same thing. It's like you really do have to, at the very least, go, that's a big life choice. I owe it to myself
Yes.
for me to uncover this. I don't want someone to tell me, because then it's like I've gone down this process just off of secondhand knowledge, and it's very likely that I'm going to miss a bunch of waypoints that were super important at the beginning. So that is why the tips tricks question, just like, man, my tip is to be consistent.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And if
absolutely.
that's, a lot of people like really don't have the time for that answer, and they'll go, well, I'm gonna go to so and so because he's nicer than me. Not, okay, cool, man. Like, perfect. Like, that's exactly what it's an odd thing. I'm giving people honesty because I know, and you knew too, it's like, if someone comes into our space and your space and is consistently against the process of other guys, then you're going to be asked to leave. It's not
Yeah.
just me,
Yeah.
right? It's, but the
100%.
point is like, I like to filter them out way beforehand. Like, before they even give money, before they even consider it. I want to, like, I'm going to be like this, as honest as I can to you, even if you've given me money. Like, especially if you've given me money, I'm going to be that much more honest, because I don't want you wasting anyone's time or money. And that's not an offensive thing. Like, I really don't want your money if you are like, well, it's fine. Pump your brakes. Let these guys that are hair on fire, ready to go, let them go battle it out in selection and training. Wait, it's okay, you know. And now that they're letting people in at age 30, it's like, awesome, man. Now
Yeah.
the advantage is with the old guy. You have such an advantage as an older candidate. So now,
Oh,
awesome.
sure.
They've just extended the opportunity for more physically capable humans.
Yeah, I
So
would agree. I would agree. I between 25 and 30, I was rocking,
yeah, man.
compared to 15 to 20.
If you look at
Yeah.
every single sport on the planet outside of like women's gymnastics, women's breaststroke, a few other little niche sports, the best athletes in every sport across the globe are 23 to 28. And the average is about 26. So what does that
Yeah.
say? It says a male at the age of 26, roughly, if they've done the process correctly, can produce, manage the most force. They can endure the most physical. They can do. So it's like, that's the process we hope to entertain for you, because, like I keep saying, I don't think anyone else deserves it more than our special operations. These really amazing processes that really take care of them.
Yeah. Good point. You know, it's I just got to go back to my medical school journey because it was short-lived. But imagine if I'd have gone to a doctor and said, "What's the minimum standards for
For
me
the
to become
MA.
a doctor?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
What do you think he would have said to me?
Right. And that's it's the frightening truth, though. Right. I imagine that, like, admissions at like a number of medical schools probably encounter that a lot of times, but I go, but that's why we argue about this, is because, like, I argue like in a good way. We
Yeah.
communicate, like, because this is why. This is where I can just stop right here. Is there's very few things in this world I trust. The thing I probably trust most in terms of action is someone who sets their mind to something, creates a reasonable timeline, and in that timeline they give it real effort, not to go, I have to do this. I'm going to give it real effort to just see if this is something that my heart can be behind. And that is really good, because if you do that and you change your mind, you still went into it authentically. You gave your heart, and you are going to discover more about yourself in that process of working really hard around a bunch of people that are doing the same and not questioning you. They're not judging you. When you're working your butt off in the environment that Stu sets forth, it's validating. It is the
Yeah.
process, and that's why we do what we do. I do what I do. It's because, like, I know that this country needs the people that we're kind of targeting, and I know they're going to find value, and I know they're going to go do the job better than we did. And that's the idea.
Yeah. Jeff, before we started, we mentioned a little bit about like why I got into coaching, right? And it was late 90s, and I had helped some people that was really life-changing for them. and it was life changing for me. Um, and it was just something I knew I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be into coaching. I wanted to also write about it, write about coaching, and so that is one of my whys of why I went into this journey, because I was able to help people. But there was also another reason. And back in the 90s, we were at like 40% as a country, about obese and unhealthy. And I just saw that negatively affecting the population of folks who could serve in some manner.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, after spending trillions on war and being a better war fighting machine, we have still done nothing better to improve that status. In fact, we've gotten worse. We're at 60% now that are obese, and
They can't
overweight
even
is even
can't even
higher.
get in. Yeah, they can't even get in just out of BMI.
Right. I mean, our number one back in the 80s and 90s, the number one reason why you couldn't serve was either academic or it was legal. Like you got in trouble, you couldn't serve.
Right.
Now it's completely height, weight standards, and uh, physical performance.
Yep.
So, you know, the main reason I wanted to do all of this is I didn't see an answer out there that anybody within the government was doing. Like they're not making boot camps to prepare you for special ops, or they're not doing these type of things. And boot camp just really just indoctrinates you into the military to depending on the unit. I will say Marine Corps boot camp's pretty hardcore,
Yep.
as far as physical standards. But it is unfortunate that we're not seeing the investment in education of eating well, taking care of yourself physically. I mean, it's all out there. The information is there. It's overloading the the internet. I mean, you can find any goal you want to research, you can find answers to how to get there.
Yep.
So I don't know what the problem is on why that is, but somehow we as coaches, we as a nation need to just do a little bit better at um, teaching people how to do this so they can take their training seriously,
Yeah,
right?
that's what we're getting at, right? We're trying to
Yeah.
prepare the body now. It's like, and I couldn't agree more. Like I don't need to repeat that, but I agree with that. And I'm hitting it from the same angle but different, right? It's like that same experience perpetuated on deployments, on world missions. Like they still get the lowest possible quality food, like the lowest possible quality food that our military can give our soldiers. That's what they give them. And to me, there's nothing more unethical. It's the same with their sleeping situations, and it's the same with their water. So we can put billions and billions and billions of dollars to building a single F-22 or 37. A single F-37 or F-22 would completely establish a baseline of better feeding, better food, better water, and better mattresses and pillows. At the very least, that would completely pay for probably the entire Special Forces community and then some. So, like, we, granted, we never are going to evolve technology, and that's great, but technology is surpassing human health, and that's going to really be a problem. It is. That's the pandemic in my mind. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I unfortunately don't have the universal answer, but I have an answer to fix your current situation if you want to get healthy. Jeff
yes.
has the exact same process, and whether that goal is to lose 80 pounds or to become, a special operator or serve in the, first responder forces, all of those are great goals. And, I think just a lot of people, unfortunately, are people say that people are turned off of serving, And yes, they may be, but they're also the number of people who even can consider serving is so low that, you know, I mean, we blame recruiters, we blame the medical, you know, history search, right? But the pool to be able to find
It's,
people who can serve is so low
it's shrinking
that
very
it's
fast.
getting worse. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know, I thought it would get better, right? So
So did
I
I. I
am
really did. Yeah. I thought that some of the programs that we implemented would get traction. Nothing. They've gotten worse. They've been disassembled, gotten rid of, trashed. Like, and now it's like this. The operators are asking the same questions that we solved. So
right.
to read all the stuff that we, the pokes, the prods, the tests, the this, the that, the wear this device to measure that for years and years and years, all of that for nothing.
Yeah, you know what?
Like,
The beauty of um, you know, creating the tactical athlete, right? When after, you know, out of necessity because of post 9/11, right? That was kind of the journey it took. Pre 9/11, nobody treated themselves like athletes in the tactical world. There were a few people that did, but it was pretty much similar to society. You had your
yep,
people that didn't care, and you had people that did care. And then 9/11 comes, we start creating tactical athletes. You know, before 9/11, you couldn't find a study on military, law enforcement, and firefighters, right? They every now and then you'd find some unique study about sleep or night shift work, right? But you had no real performance study, human performance, recovery, nutrition. It had nothing like that. And then 9/11 occurs, you're spending millions of dollars now on these studies, right? And there's some research out there that's been transformational to
yep,
coaching, right? To coaching and the people. But like you said, you know, they're asking the same questions we were asking 20 years ago, when all they really need to do is do a search of the studies and do a meta-analysis of those studies, and you'd have your answer that you're researching again.
yeah. They just need to take action on the research, and that's we
Right.
just keep going. Well, more research needs. No, we don't need to do a. Anytime I hear now, I'm like, I'm a proponent of research. I am. Don't be wrong. I'm a big proponent of reading abstracts and full things and getting to understand it. But we don't need to do another bit of research on the rest of my time on this planet in terms of human performance. We don't. It's such a huge waste of time. It's how we it's how the intellectuals hide behind their lack of action. And we don't need universities. We don't need governing bodies because they have exhausted research properly, but we haven't actioned it. And
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
frightening part is we just going to keep making the excuse that like, well, we don't have the answer. Nothing is finite because of like whatever you want to call it, evolution, creation. Like things are always changing. Like it's not the same war, right? The same conflicts, but the same detriments are happening: lack of food, lack of sleep, lack of good air, lack of good water. That at the very least we can resolve, but we haven't even resolved that in our own countries. You
Right.
know, the United States is like, because you already highlighted the big problem is we're trying to pull from a pool of people that are unfit, and it's getting the unfit pool is getting much larger, which makes our pool much more difficult to not only find, but then to take somebody out of that pool before their lifestyle and their environment is too much for them to come back from.
I will tell you, Jeff, some of the most rewarding things I do as a coach is to take that kid who's had a lifetime of being overweight, right? Being obese, but that kid wants to serve. And I don't know what it is about this one type of person that just really wants to do this. You know, it really does come down to how bad you want to do this. And you know, you get a kid losing 80 pounds, he stays, you know, he stays in a normal height weight for the next 15, 20 years or more. You know, he serves, you know, 80-pound guy, you know, a guy who's 80 pounds overweight becomes an Army Ranger, serves for 20, and, you know, and just stays a whole new lifestyle change. You know, those are types of, you know, rewards I love to see as a coach, and honored to be a part of that journey. Um, so I guess sometimes when I may get a little short, or sometimes I may rant about a certain group of questions or immaturity, it's because I've seen people who are like that,
Right.
who've lost 100, 80 to 100 pounds and continue to keep it off and are serving to this day. Um, it's great to get somebody from 10 pull-ups to 20 pull-ups and, get them through, help them get through, prepare for whatever job they're wanting to do. But, to see somebody actually make a lifestyle change like that, go from 0 to 100, that is, for me, that is my coaching peak,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
And
it's a sign of sincerity and commitment. That's what we're looking for.
yeah.
Yeah. I know we can keep going on and on about this, and I just think that that's at the end of the day, like that's it. Like we're just trying to find people that we know, man, like they're good human beings trying to do the same thing we were doing and just in a different timeline, and like
Yeah.
allowing them to know that they're not alone and they have an environment to learn and grow in. That's the magic for me.
Yeah, from the both of us, I would say we take our coaching very seriously.
Yeah.
So I really do expect students to take their training very seriously,
Agreed.
right? And it's just an expectation up front. Um, and if they don't at first, there are some ways as coaches we can make that happen. Some ways are coaching positively, some ways are coaching negatively to failure,
Yep.
right? And see how that person reacts to that failure or negative feedback.
Yep.
Both ways work, right? And, you know, it just depends on how you handle it. And let me
Yep.
tell you, if you can't handle the negative feedback now, stand by, because I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I ever had any positive feedback going through
Not once.
buttons.
No, not that's not the process. Like I'm not like trying to be a carbon copy of what their experience. I thrive in that environment. I do really well in that negative feedback. Work hard, and I do like so. I tend to gravitate towards that, honestly. But right or wrong, it's my heart's in it though. Just like you said,
Yeah,
I'm serious about what I do.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, Jeff. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to chat about this one.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll pick another topic. I know we have a class starting here pretty in a couple of weeks, so I definitely like to we can pick some topics that are a little more informative, I guess, than that coming up, I guess.
yeah,
But
maybe talk some specifics of training.
let's do that. We'll come up with a date for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds good. So you guys can check me out. I'm Stu Smith, StuSmithFitness.com. Also check out Jeff Nichols at PerformanceFirstUS.com. Right there. Even typed
awesome.
it out for
I
us this
see it.
time, Jeff.
Perfect. I appreciate you, Stu. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you. Have a good one.
You bet.